Hello, welcome to Tech Tuesday, episode 3. We're going to do a tutorial today on Tiki-Toki. Tiki-Toki is a timeline generator. It's web-based software that will create a nice interactive timeline with a web address for you. You can use it for a timeline for a biography, for a historic event, for project management, for steps you want to take for a student to complete a project or a group project. You can use it for events in a plot, for a novel. It's really quite versatile as long as you're within the realm of timelines. So I will show you how to use that. First step is you're going to go to tikitoki.com. That's TIKI-TOKI.com and click sign up now. That will take you to your sign up page. I've already filled this out just to save time in this tutorial, but go ahead and pause it and fill that out. Make sure you agree to the terms and conditions, and then click for a free account. This is where you can create a new timeline. Now, one of the drawbacks to the free account is that you only get one timeline at a time, which really isn't that big a deal because you can just edit it multiple times, so you can just keep changing it. So really essentially making many timelines. The title of our timeline is going to be John Lewis. John Lewis is, we're going to do a biography timeline, and I think that John Lewis is someone that I want to talk about in my history class, let's say. So the start date will be, for the purposes of this, we're going to say that it is 1940. And we're going to go to February 21st. February 21st, 1940, that'll be our start date. And our end date is going to be today because we are lucky enough to still have John Lewis. Now, obviously, you're going to put more detail into this, but this is just a tutorial, so I'm kind of going to do a bare bones kind of thing here. Introduction, I just put John Lewis as the most important American leader, which I believe. So the intro image, let's say we want to have an image to introduce our timeline. I have an image already selected. Google image search is the best way to do it. Here's a nice image of John Lewis. So you just right click and you're going to want to copy image address. Now this might look different on a Windows machine, but just copy image address, and then you'll go back and you can put, for the image URL, just paste that in there. So copy and paste and hit select, and bam, there it goes, it shows up. So we can click close there. You don't need to give any image credit, although it would be nice if you did. You don't have to at all. The background image, let's just use the same one just for the sake of brevity here. So that way when we look at our timeline, it'll have a nice image of Congressman Lewis in the background. So we're going to click create new timeline, and look at that, we have our timeline. So this panel over here is going to be the main thing you use, and this down here is what your panel is actually going to look like. Okay, so what we want to do is to create a new story. A new story is an event on our timeline. And this story is going to be on February 21st, 1940. The info for the story is John Lewis was born in Georgia, let's say. Okay, now if we would like to have a picture on there, because that kind of makes it look sharper, click save here, and then you're going to click on story media right here in the middle. Click on story media. Now that link won't be active until you saved your basic info, so click on story media, then click add new media, and we're going to do exactly the same thing we did before. We're going to find a picture and put the media source there. So this is the picture I found. It's not the best one, but I found one quickly. Copy image address, much like we did for the last one. Click copy image address, go back to our timeline, and paste it where it says source. So we paste it there and we click save, and you'll see that we have our nice picture here on our timeline of John Lewis was born in Georgia. Cool. Let's say we want to add another event to our timeline. So we click again on create new story. This new story is that John Lewis was the president of SNCC. Okay. Now, when you put your intro, you can put a link in here. You can put a link to an article on what SNCC is. You can put some pictures on there. You can do whatever you want so that students may click on that to get more information. So this is really robust where you can put a lot of stuff in the timeline. For the purposes of this, let's say we're just introducing John Lewis maybe, and we're going to go into more detail later. Click Save. And once again, we'll go to Story Media, Add Media, and then I've found this here. We're going to again right click, copy image address, go back to our timeline, paste it in there, and click Save. Okay. What I forgot to do though is I forgot to put the dates in there. So see how it's just showing up right above where he was born. Obviously he wasn't the president of SNCC as an infant, so we realized, oh no, I made a mistake. Go back to basic info, and that's where we can change our start date. So he was president of SNCC from 1963. Click confirm, and then we need to add an end date here. Oops, that didn't take. 1963. Oh, and you need to click a date. I don't have the date off the top of my head, so let's just say he started in February. Obviously, you're going to want to be a little more accurate. That moved it up to 1963, and then he was president until 1966. And let's just pick another random date. Now, you'll pick a more specific date, but for the purposes of this. And then we're going to click Save. So now if we look at our timeline, you can see here that for 1963 to 1966, you can see here he's the president of SNCC, and it shows up nicely on our timeline. Okay, so that's kind of a neat little tool there, and you can see it, and I'll show you how to change some things on your timeline here in a second. Let's add one more story, just to show you how to do it one more time. So we add create new story. This new story, we're going to call it Selma to Montgomery. Very important March. And we'll call that March 7th, 1965. Okay, we'll put it as March. It was longer than that, but we'll put on here March 7th, 1965, because that was what came to be known as Bloody Sunday. So we're going to click Save. Again, go to Story Media, Add New Media. Right here's John Lewis, in case you're wondering, right in the front of that March. Click Copy Image Address, go back, put it in the source. Sorry if I'm doing this quickly, but it does get a little bit repetitive. Click Save, and now we have a 1965, a nice picture with Selma to Montgomery. So your timelines are probably going to have more events and things like that. This timeline here is a little bit long because we're going all the way up to the present, so we would add a lot more events in there if we wanted to. Okay, so we can click now if you want to change some settings on your timeline. You can see up here the timeline is called John Lewis. You can click on here, it lists our stories. You can click Settings, and it gives you a couple different options. You can go to 3D settings, and if you want to have it kind of come at you or change how that looks. Really any sort of things you want to play around with, you can, depending on how much, but this is the basics of how to use the Tiki-Toki timeline. And then what I will show you once you're done, you've saved everything. Okay. Click on this up arrow. That really shows you really how it looks for your user. So this is what they would come to originally when they come into your timeline, born in 1940. And really, I'm just hitting the over arrow, and it goes to the next event on the timeline. Okay, 1963 to 19. So this is kind of a really neat way to go from event to event when you're instructing your class. One other useful piece, if you want to share this, all you really need to do is click the browser URL and then copy it, and then if you wanted to email it to students or put it on your website or put a link to it on a website or in a presentation, if you want to put it on a slide, that will work. Then you can just put it on your browser and go there, and this is what your users will see. It gives you the original intro, and then it takes you to your timeline, and then your users can scroll through the events. That's how to use Tiki-Toki. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to stop by my office or send me an email or comment on this YouTube video right below. Otherwise, we will see you next week on Tech Tuesday. Thank you.